Professor Wesley, the first time since the early 1970s that Australian media does not have an accredited journalist in China. This is a very low ebb we're seeing right now.
Well, we're seeing the continued deterioration of the bilateral relationship, Kieran. It's hard to tell at this stage whether this is another step in a slow tightening of the pressure on Australia by Beijing, or whether China has simply decided to take Australia out of one category of countries that it deals with, which up until 5 or 6 years ago was seen to be a relatively friendly country to China, and simply put it in another category. And that is a country that China will deal with on a pragmatic basis, but with no pretense of any closeness and no favours done on either side. It's certainly starting to look like the latter of those to me.
So for all intents and purposes, the strategic partnership is dead?
If it's not dead, Kieran, it's certainly on extreme life support. It is very hard to see how the bilateral relationship is going to return to a level of, let's say, pre-2012, where there were close and cordial relations between the Australian and Chinese governments, Australian governments of both sides, I must say, and regular visits to Australia by senior Chinese leaders. Xi Jinping and others were quite regular visitors to our shores. It's very hard to see how any of that is going to be resumed. I think what we are looking for, at least on the Australian side, is a new level of, I guess, pragmatic equilibrium. On the Chinese side, however, it seems to be, Beijing seems to be quite happy to let it deteriorate even further.
That's, I guess, in the diplomatic side. In the commercial side, the connections remain, don't they? And in terms of exports, I think it's nearly 50% in the recent data of Australian exports went to China. So that continues to bubble away.
Yeah, look, none of the political tensions are taking away the essential complementarity of the two economies. Australia still does produce large, high-quality, low-cost supplies of the sorts of things that China needs to import. And China still manufactures a lot of the things that Australia needs to import as well. And so we have seen and we are going to see, I think, an inexorable growth in the trading relationship between the two countries, unless there is a decision on either side or both that this relationship will need to be put to an end. I don't see any concerted effort on either side to decouple the two economies. And in fact, I think it would be economic suicide for both sides. What we will see in the years ahead, however, is the unaccustomed sight to us of a thriving economic relationship and a very cold, very frigid, very fractured political and foreign policy relationship coexisting at the same time.
So if you're advising Marise Payne and Prime Minister Morrison, what's the message in terms of the medium to longer term? Because my issue with some of the elements of the debate at either end of the spectrum, and there certainly is quite a polarised debate, is that it's hard to see what the end game is on either side of the debate, if you know what I mean. The hawks on the one side, those that will forgive everything on the other. How do we get the middle ground, the equilibrium of having a constructive setup with this country, which is not going anywhere in our lifetimes? If anything, it establishes even a greater significance on the horizon.
Look, I think Australia needs to hold to its nerves. It needs to hold to its values. There will be no benefit to us to be seen to be making extravagant concessions on our side simply to try and bring back a level of closeness into the relationship. This is more than national pride. An Australia that is seen to bend to the sort of pressure that China is putting on us is is going to be seen to be a bit of a patsy in the region. So we certainly can't be doing that. My main advice would be redouble your efforts with other countries in Asia, deal with China on a pragmatic basis, and continue on with a pragmatic foreign policy that sees us reaching out to other countries and using multilateral mechanisms when we need to, but continuing to suggest that we're open to a conversation with China when China is ready to talk.
Yes, so play the long game in that sense.
Absolutely. I think that's the only thing we can do now, and we need to become used to a bilateral relationship that's definitely shifted onto a new cadence and a new set of expectations on both sides.
Professor Wesley, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.